The phone rang just as Roy Hayes was scraping the last remnant of meatloaf from his plate. It was Ellen's recipe, though Roy admitted it's never tasted quite right without her touch. He glanced at the caller ID, Caitlin, and smiled despite the loneliness that always accompanied the sight of his daughter's name. He settled into Ellen's old recliner, the worn leather a familiar comfort from years of her evening reading sessions. "Caitlin, Dad, how are you holding up?" Her voice carried the warmth that once made his chest tighten with love. Roy spoke lightly, mentioning he'd just finished dinner and was about to watch the news. He omitted that the meal was leftovers from 3 days ago, or that he'd been staring at Ellen's photograph on the mantel for the better part of an hour. Caitlin immediately asked if he was eating enough, and reminded him about the grocery app she had shown him. "I'm eating plenty," Roy interrupted gently. He decided to tell her about his small scare, forgetting to turn off the burner under his coffee pot the day before, only smelling it burning from the living room in time. A brief pause followed, and Roy could picture the familiar little crease between her eyebrows, the one she'd inherited from her mother. "Dad, maybe we should talk about getting someone to check on you more regularly," she suggested. Roy dismissed her concern, saying Jeremy thought he was fine, and quickly shifted the conversation to their business trip in Phoenix. Caitlin explained that the conference ended tomorrow. Jeremy was handling client meetings while she sat through endless presentations about digital marketing trends. She then excused herself, citing dinner plans with potential investors. "Of course, sweetheart. I love you," Roy responded. "Love you too, Dad. Take care of yourself, okay?" Roy heard a click and then rustling sounds. He assumed she had dropped the phone into her purse and reached to hang up his end. But then 2 voices, muffled but sickeningly clear, pierced the quiet of the house. "Jeremy, you see how he's deteriorating?" Caitlin's voice was devoid of warmth or care. "He forgot to turn off the stove yesterday. What if he burns the house down?" Ice spread through Roy's chest, freezing his hand above the receiver. "It's time for a nursing home, Caitlin." Jeremy's voice was cold and calculating. "He's becoming a burden, and you know it. Your dad's a good man, but he can't live alone anymore." Then came the calculation that shattered Roy entirely. Caitlin's tone shifted to pure calculation. "The house is worth almost $1 million now. With Denver's market, we could probably get $900,000, maybe more." "Exactly." Jeremy sounded pleased. "We could sell it, put him somewhere decent, not too expensive, and finally buy that house in Boulder we've been looking at, the one with a mountain view." Roy's daughter actually laughed. "God, Jeremy, you should have seen him tonight. So grateful just to hear from me. He has no idea we're planning this. The longer we wait, the more confused he'll get. We should strike while he still trusts us completely." The phone slipped from Roy's numb fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor. Every board of that floor, laid by his own hands 23 years ago, had been a promise of their family's future. He sat in the sudden silence, staring at Ellen's photograph, feeling something cold and hard settle in his chest. They thought he was a burden, confused, helpless, and ready to be managed and discarded, planning their new life in my grave. But I wasn't dead yet, and I wasn't nearly as confused as they believed. Roy sat for a long time in the dark, the house feeling different, as if the walls had heard the betrayal. When he finally stood, his legs were unsteady, but the warm light of the lamp illuminated the living room, revealing items furnished piece by piece with sacrifice. He saw the burgundy sofa where Caitlin used to curl up doing homework, and the coffee table he'd built in the garage, sanding it smooth while she played at his feet. He walked to the kitchen and retrieved the folder containing 20 years of financial records, papers he'd kept because Ellen always advised, "You never know when you might need them." The University of Colorado tuition, receipts totaled $48,000 over 4 years. He remembered working double shifts, coming home covered in concrete dust and plaster. Ellen would have coffee waiting, massaging his shoulders while he calculated bills. She had worried, "Roy, you're working yourself to death," but he had insisted Caitlin deserved better. Ellen's final warning echoed, "Just don't give her so much that she forgets to be grateful." The wedding receipts showed an expenditure of $32,000 for a single day. Roy had originally budgeted $5,000 or $8,000, but Caitlin had cried about wanting her dream wedding. He spent 6 months working weekends, installing hardwood floors for a contractor friend under the table to cover the cost. Caitlin had promised, "I'll never forget this," during their father-daughter dance. She had forgotten who co-signed her first car loan, and who made the calls to secure her marketing job after 8 months of post-graduation unemployment. He found bank statements from 2 years ago, following Jeremy's loss of his financial advisor position due to reasons they never fully explained. They moved in temporarily, and Roy never charged rent, paying increased utility bills, and buying groceries for 3. Jeremy had called him the most generous man in Colorado. They had been on their feet for over a year now, both working good jobs and making more money than Roy ever had. Yet they never mentioned moving out or paying him back. Roy recently paid $200 for their anniversary dinner and covered the $3,000 transmission repair on Jeremy's BMW, which cleaned out Roy's emergency fund. Roy ascended to the master bedroom, still unchanged. He pulled out the original house deed, Roy and Ellen Hayes, purchased 1999. Now only his name remained. Standing in a room where Ellen had died, holding his hand while machines beeped around them, he recalled her dying whisper. "Promise me you won't let them take advantage of you. Promise me you'll take care of yourself." He had pictures of himself laying the foundation in 1999, and Ellen, pregnant with Caitlin, bringing lemonade to the crew. The house was built with a second mortgage, a personal loan from his brother, and Ellen taking a part-time job to afford materials. They ate beans and rice for months, driving cars held together with prayer and duct tape. And now, his daughter planned to sell it all and put me away like an inconvenient piece of furniture. He retrieved the business card of Todd Fisher, real estate attorney, kept in his desk drawer for 3 years. Caitlin and Jeremy thought they were dealing with a confused old man. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The next morning, Roy walked through his house, seeing it as Caitlin and Jeremy saw it. Square footage, market value, liquid assets. In the kitchen, he ran his hand along the granite countertop he had installed himself, remembering Ellen picking the pattern with its veins of gold. He remembered Caitlin taking her first steps right there. Roy visited the law offices of Fisher & Associates. He wore the Navy suit Ellen had bought him for Caitlin's college graduation. Todd Fisher, maybe 55, met him with a patient demeanor. Roy laid out the entire story, detailing their plans for the nursing home and the Boulder Dream House. Fisher confirmed the legal reality. Since the house was titled in Roy's name only, Caitlin and Jeremy have absolutely no claim to your property. They cannot sell it or force him into a care facility without his explicit consent. Roy asked the crucial question. If he wanted to sell it himself, could he? You could put it on the market tomorrow, if you chose to. It's your property, your decision, Fisher affirmed. Fisher noted that Denver's housing market was incredibly strong, with properties often selling fast for cash offers above asking price. Roy explained his motive. They think I'm helpless, confused. Maybe it's time I showed them exactly how sharp my mind really is. Fisher confirmed that with the right cash buyer, they could have a sale completed within a week, maybe less, before Caitlin and Jeremy returned. Roy agreed instantly, stating, "I built that house with my own hands, Mr. Fisher. I know exactly what I'm doing." He paid the consultation fee in cash. As Roy walked his truck, Caitlin's name appeared on his phone screen. He smiled and let it ring, deciding to let her wonder and make her plans. He was done being the grateful, manageable old man. Roy finally answered Caitlin's call on the 6th ring. She sounded overly enthusiastic, saying she and Jeremy had planned something very special for him. A vacation to a beautiful place, like a resort but with medical staff on hand. Roy's jaw clenched at the clear description of a nursing home. Caitlin confirmed they would be back next Friday and expected him to be ready by then, packing. Just pack some clothes and personal items, the essentials. Actually, Caitlin, I have a surprise for you, too, when you get back, Roy said, looking out at the bay window he'd built for Ellen. She sounded pleased, imagining he was making their job easier. That evening, Roy searched for real estate agents in Denver. He chose Brian Connor, a man who specialized in quick sales, averaging 18 days from listing to closing. Roy dialed Connor's number. knowing that once he made this call, there was no going back to being the grateful, manageable old man. Connor confirmed that with the right property and pricing, he had closed deals in as little as 10 days with cash buyers. Roy described the house. 3,400 square feet, built in 1999, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, well maintained by the original owner. Connor recognized it as a premium listing and agreed to meet Roy that afternoon at 3 o'clock. Roy spent 2 hours cleaning, feeling like he was preparing for an execution rather than guests. Brian Connor arrived exactly at 3 o'clock, immediately impressed by the custom crown molding and the hardwood floors Roy had installed. Roy, slipping into the familiar rhythm of the proud craftsman, pointed out the solid oak floors and the custom granite countertop, recalling that Ellen had picked the pattern because the gold veining reminded her of sunlight. Connor showed him comparable sales, ranging from $850,000 to $920,000. Given the condition and custom features, I'm thinking we price it at $890,000. Connor explained he had an investment group looking for exactly this type of property. They pay cash and can close in 10 business days, avoiding appraisal delays. 10 days. Caitlin and Jeremy would return in 8. Thinking of Ellen's warning, Roy gave his final answer, "Let's do it." Connor, genuinely excited, immediately called his investors, describing the house as immaculate condition, custom features throughout. The contracts would be ready the next morning at 9 a.m. For the first time since the betrayal, Roy felt control. Brian Connor returned the next morning with contracts, a notary, and professional efficiency. Roy read every line, ensuring the terms were exactly as discussed. Sale price $890,000, cash purchase, closing date 10 business days from signing. Roy signed the papers with steady hands, feeling each stroke like cutting a chain. The following days were a blur of title searches and inspections. The investor's crew admired his quality workmanship. Days 4 through 6, Roy secured a small, comfortable furnished apartment at Sunset Manor, a senior community, where he could start over with nearly $900,000. He also arranged for storage, carefully choosing essentials of life lived together. Ellen's china, her jewelry box, the photo albums, and her cookbooks with handwritten notes. He left almost all the furniture and Ellen's clothes, still carrying her scent, to the new owners. On day 8, Brian confirmed the closing was on track for the next day, and the wire transfer would be completed immediately. That night, Roy packed a single suitcase. Friday morning, he went to the title company. He signed the deed transfer, the settlement statement, and the final acknowledgement that 1247 Maple Street, his address as referenced in the note, no longer belonged to Roy Hayes. He was shown the wire transfer confirmation, $890,000 less closing costs, deposited to his account. He drove home and immediately called a 24-hour locksmith, requiring an urgent visit and paying a $200 emergency fee. He waited in his truck, hating the half-truth he told his neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, about ongoing work. Eddie the locksmith arrived. Roy told him it was a new ownership situation. He watched Eddie remove the brass locks Ellen had picked out. The new locks were silver and modern, clicking differently. Roy paid $450 in cash, ensuring no paper trail. Roy took one last walk through the echoing rooms of the house he had built. "I'm sorry, honey," he said aloud to Ellen's memory, "but you'd understand. You always said I was too generous for my own good." He locked the new locks and drove to Sunset Manor, signing the lease and paying the deposit and first month's rent in cash. In his new, functional apartment, Roy immediately worked to protect his money. He chose Colorado Community Bank's private banking division, which focused on discretion. On Monday morning, he met David Morrison and initiated the wire transfer of his nearly $900,000. On Wednesday afternoon, David called, "Mr. Hayes, your funds have cleared successfully. Your account is fully active." Roy was truly in control. That evening, he researched many surveillance cameras, knowing his methodical nature would serve his final act of revenge. He ordered a wireless mini camera disguised inside a phone charger, motion activated, streaming directly to his phone. It cost $149 with expedited shipping to ensure Thursday delivery. He then composed a note, finding a tone that was dignified but devastating, loving but final. He wrote in his careful engineer's handwriting, "Dear Caitlin and Jeremy, if you're reading this, it means my plan worked perfectly. I heard your phone conversation about putting me in a nursing home because I'm becoming a burden. I heard you calculating how much money you make selling my house. The house has been sold for $890,000 cash. The money is safely in my new bank account where it will stay. I've moved to a place where I'm appreciated, not tolerated. Don't worry about me. Worry about your own housing situation. Your belongings have been packed and are being stored at Denver Moving and Storage on Fax Avenue. You have 30 days to claim them before storage fees begin. I gave you everything I had for 42 years. You repaid me by planning to warehouse me so you could steal my life's work. I hope the lesson was worth the cost. Love, Dad." On Thursday afternoon, Roy drove back to Maple Street for the last time. He used a garage door opener he'd never given them. Inside, he noticed her scatter mail and suitcases, evidence they treated his house as their storage facility. He positioned the hidden camera charger near the front door outlet. He tested the motion detection and then taped the envelope to the inside of the front door at eye level. He locked the new locks, tested the camera feed from his car, and drove back to Sunset Manor, the motion detector armed. Friday morning, Roy settled into his chair with his phone, watching the camera feed of his empty former doorway. At 5:15 p.m., the motion detector buzzed. Jeremy's black SUV pulled into the driveway. Caitlin and Jeremy emerged with their luggage, moving with the casual confidence of people coming home to claim their inheritance. Caitlin tried her key in the new lock. It did not turn. Jeremy tried the back door, then returned, his face dark with alarm. "Someone changed these locks," he stated, recognizing the new hardware. Caitlin frantically tried to call Roy's disconnected landline. Jeremy, observing the deliberately unlatched kitchen window, boosted Caitlin through. Moments later, the front door opened, and both stopped dead when they saw the white envelope taped to the door. Caitlin tore open the envelope, reading the words while Jeremy peered over her shoulder. Roy watched their faces transition from shock to horror. He sold the house. Caitlin shrieked. How could he do this to us? Jeremy snatched the note. That manipulative old bastard. He was playing us the whole time. $890,000. Caitlin wept, realizing that money was supposed to be our future. Your future? Jeremy snapped, his devoted son-in-law mass dissolving. This is your father, Caitlin. You should have handled this better. My fault. She turned on him, resentment boiling over. You're the one who said he was becoming a burden. You pushed the nursing home. Jeremy gestured wildly. We're homeless. Our lease expires next week. The beautiful irony was clear to Roy. They were fighting in the house they had tried to steal about the homelessness they had planned for him. Call a lawyer, Caitlin pleaded. He can't just sell the house without telling us. With what money? Jeremy replied with contempt. In case you forgot, I lost my job 6 months ago, and your marketing salary barely covers our car payments. Jeremy revealed his unemployable status after being fired for questionable transactions. Caitlin crumpled, whispering, How could he be so cruel? The same way you were cruel when you called him a burden and planned to warehouse him. Jeremy shot back. The old man was smarter than both of us. Roy watched him collapse onto the old furniture, which would be gone tomorrow. He turned off the camera feed. He walked to a small kitchenette, opened a bottle of Ellen's favorite 2018 Bordeaux he had saved, and raised a glass toward her photo. To you, my love. Justice served, he murmured. The wine tasted like victory. Roy deleted a desperate text from an unknown number, powered off his phone, and looked out at the Denver skyline. For the first time since Ellen's death, Roy felt completely free. He was no longer anyone's burden, but his own man, with his own money, his own future. Roy Hayes had left the building, and he was never coming back.